Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. While we wait for everyone to join us today, we will ask you a few fun questions. Kindly type your questions in the Q&A box. You will not be able to use the chat box, and if you raise your hands, we will not be able to answer you. So my first question to you is, how are you feeling today? Your response should be linked to something marine. No answers yet, folks. We are waiting for your answers. Some very interesting answers there. Cool, sandy, happy, just keep swimming, good. Marine is definitely good. That's a good answer. Over to you, Anisha.
Thank you. So the next question is, what is your favorite marine species? It could be a plant or an animal. So let's see what answers are coming in. What is your favorite? Okay, it's dolphin, sea anemone, coral. Okay. Wow, there are so many answers coming together. Starfish, jellyfish, blue whale, coral, shark, fish, dolphins. Okay, there are many people who love coral actually. You can see dolphins. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Corley?
Our next question is, which is the biggest ecosystem in the world? Option A, marine. Option B, terrestrial. Option C, riverine. Option D, none of the above. Let's see what your answers are, folks. We'll wait for another couple of seconds. And yes, we're getting some right answers. Marine is the largest ecosystem. Congratulations. Anisha?
Yes. So moving on to our next question. Our next question is, how much of Earth's oxygen is produced by the ocean? So we have options for this. Is it 30%, 50%, 70%, or none of these? So just let's see what answers you've given. How much of the Earth's oxygen is produced by the ocean? 30, some have given 30%, some have given 70, some have also given 50. Okay. Wow. We'll just wait for some more answers to come in. Okay. So many people has given the correct answer actually. It's 70%. So the next question again, Coralie, to you.
What is a mola mola? Option A, a whale. Option B, a starfish. Option C, a sunfish. Option D, a seahorse. Let's see how many of you get this one right. Lots of answers coming in. Mola mola, guys. What do you think it is? We're still getting answers. That's great. Great interaction, guys. But the answer is sunfish. So all of you who have got it right, pat yourselves on the back. With that, we'll start our program. Welcome to the launch of our digital education program, Marine Matters, which is part of the One Earth, One Home program. Today is World Fisheries Day, which is celebrated by fishers globally to highlight the importance of healthy ocean ecosystems and to ensure sustainable stocks of fisheries in the world. The coastline of over 8,000 kilometers, two major island chains, and an exclusive economic zone of over 2 million square kilometers, India is host to a wide array of marine and coastal ecosystems ranging from mangroves, coral reefs, seagrasses, intertidal habitats, sandy and rocky beaches, estuaries, and salt marshes. And all of these host an astonishing variety of biodiversity. These biodiverse ecosystems are also critical sources of livelihood and food security for over 30% of our nation's population. Before we start, I'd like to introduce you to my co-host for today, Ms. Onesha Lahiri, who is the Program Officer, Environment Education, West Bengal.
Thank you so much. But you are so humble that you forgot to talk about yourself. So today I'm glad to co-host this program with a person who even has coral in her name. So let me introduce you to Dr. Coralie Dilima, the Senior Coordinator of Marine Conservation Program in Goa office of WWF India.
So let's quickly go through the agenda for today. Can we have the agenda on? Thanks. We kick off our program with a talk by WWF India's Director for Environment Education, followed by the team leader of the Marine Program, our program director, our chief guest, and we've planned a whole host of fascinating talks and fun activities for you. Moving on with our program, I would like to invite WWF India's Director of Environment Education, Radhika Suri, to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Coralie and Anisha. That was a great beginning and very, very interesting. A very, very good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining on this Saturday morning. Well, we had to have it today because it is World Fisheries Day, and I think so it's a fantastic day to launch Marine Matters, our education program, with the marine team at WWF India. So I just, wanted to share, I'll just kind of, share a little bit about the program and why are we kind of doing it, and what is this One Earth, One Home you've been hearing about? What is this program? So at WWF India, we have always believed in education, the power of education. And this year is a very, very special year for us. We at WWF India turned 50. And the very interesting part of this journey is that the first division that was started in Mumbai was the Environment Education Division. So yes, we are 50 years old working in the sphere of environment education. Our work is spread across the country. You cannot teach environment education to children in one way. The country is extremely diverse, and that's why WWF India has always ensured that we are, we understand this diversity, we understand the differences in the environment in these sections, and therefore we've always had state offices across the country working on education. Our mission is very simple. We believe that, children, youth, citizens must have the right information, but at the same time, they must be empowered to take action. And it's very, very important that, we just don't, keep understanding things and do nothing about it. So our programs are very, encourage a lot of action, a lot of change, a lot of behavior change. And we do various programs for students, youth, citizens. So it's different kinds of, programs that run across the country. And the other thing that, WWF is a science-based organization. And, we come up with a report every 2 years. It's called the Living Planet Report. It talks about the health of the planet. And this year we launched it in September this year. And the report is saying that, while it may sound very gloomy, that the wildlife species have declined at 68%. And we are creating a huge, huge demand on biodiversity and, nature. But at the same time, it is extremely important. There's still time. So the report also highlights that there is still time to reverse it. And that's what we should be really working towards. And the other thing it really highlights is also that we too need to take care of nature because it's going to impact us. The kind of consumption, like even today, COVID, or if you even look at the way the air pollution is in Delhi and some of our cities, we are harming ourselves. So I think so it's becoming very, very important that we start taking care of nature for ourselves too. And there is time. So that's the good news that, we can reverse this. So like I said, 2020 was a very special year for us. We turned 50. And in our environment education work, we call it a real milestone year. COVID came, and we were very, very, we always worked on ground with schools and colleges, and we were really taken aback when they shut. Nobody imagined a day, where a school would be silent. I mean, it's when you think of a school, you always think of noise, chatter, laughter, activity, lots of activity, and nobody imagined this year. But what happened is, and why I call it a milestone year is, we decided, so we do a program called Ek Prithvi, which, works on schools becoming green schools. Every teacher is an environment educator, the whole school converts into a green school. So what we thought that while children are at home, why do we not continue this program and make it Ek Prithvi, Ek Ghar, one earth, one home. And the state governments, NGOs rallied, and all of them gave us permission saying, let's do it. It's a fantastic idea. So One Earth, One Home was launched in September. It's running in 16 states, 2 union territories, and is reaching millions of children. It's a digital program, and little by little, every home is becoming green. We're getting beautiful stories. So we managed to do something that was really different and interesting. And if we were on ground, we would have reached 100,000 children. But through this, we've reached million children. So it's been a real, milestone year. And the program is in its, in its last phase. And while we were doing this program, we definitely felt that the children who are staying in the coastal part of the country need to know and understand their marine, their coast. They need to understand this too. And therefore, with that thought, we kind of collaborated with our marine team and have launched this particular program for all the states that are in the coastal part of the country. And in this audience today that you see nearly 830 people, there are children and teachers who have joined from Kashmir and other locations, because at times we believe that, we are not related to the sea just because we are far away from it. But I think so we are all related. And that's what this seminar is going to kind of, open our eyes that we are all related to it and we all need to be aware about it. And we have created this program. Our state office teams have created this program, Marine Matters, which will be launched today. All our programs are in multiple languages, and yes, they also support the SDGs. So with this thought, I think so we can move on to the next thing and dive deeper into experts who will talk about the marine life and issues and other things. So best of luck to everybody and hope you have a great seminar. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Radhika, for kicking off this event. Next up is Mr. Vinod Malailetu, team leader of WWF India's marine program. Vinod will provide us with an overview of the work that the marine program does.
Yeah, thank you, Corley, for the introduction. And hi, everyone. Good morning. So I would like to start by saying that the inclusion of the marine content in the environment education program is like a long cherished dream, which has really come true. And another important feature of this One Earth, One Home Marine Matters launch is that it is also happening on a World Fisheries Day, which is an important day for the fishers globally. And globally, it is being celebrated by most of the organizations involving public, involving policymakers, and it's like a very huge event. And also to say that it is the 50th year of WWF India. And just on a lighter side, so initially I was very excited by people like Coralie and Anisha posting questions on the questions to the group, and even I too did not know what was mola mola. So that was a real surprise for me to know that it is like a sunfish. So that was really great, and the quiz was really very good. And to just kick off, I would like to say something like to set the context. I would like to say something on the importance of the marine ecosystem. So we have a coastline of around 8,000 kilometers, which itself says how important our marine coastal environment is. And it also has an exclusive economic zone of 2 million square kilometers. And we have around 1.5 million fishers directly employed. And it also gives employment to around to more than 10 million people in this sector. And with regard to the economics, it contributes 1.07% of the GDP and 5.3% of the agriculture and allied activities. So this itself sets the context, and we get to understand the importance of the marine ecosystem. So now coming to the program, so I wish to take you through a short presentation. So just bear with me. I will be sharing screen and starting my presentation. So I hope all of you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So let me make it full screen. Yeah, okay, great. So coming to the next slide. So this map itself represents the work that the marine program does in even though not in all the 9 coastal states, at least we are engaged in 6 coastal states. And the WWF-India Marine Program vision is India's marine and coastal biodiversity is conserved and managed sustainably, contributing to enhanced ecosystem resilience and sustainable livelihoods. So with this, I just kick off my presentation. So we broadly work on sustainable fisheries, threatened species and critical ecosystems, sustainable development of the coast and the island ecosystem, and lastly on marine debris and plastic pollution. So within the sustainable fisheries, we do promote eco-labeling as a tool for sustainably managing the marine resources. So I have tried to avoid technical jargons just to keep it like very simple. So eco-labeling of certification means it is just like an ISI mark that you find on any product in the market. Even the fish or the fish product that is being marketed would have like a logo saying that it is from a sustainably fished source. And if you have also seen the latest, the VNR 2020 document by Niti Aayog, so it is like from global to local, it really says on why certification is important, and the government has said that that would be definitely used as a tool for sustainably managing fisheries. And just for information sake, I would say that in India, there is only one fishery that has been MSC certified, which is the Ashtamudi clam fishery. And that is just because it is very regional. And in a tropical fishery where you have more than 1,000 species in trade and more than 10,000 species in the ecosystem, it's a little bit difficult to eco-label it just because of the wide biodiversity and several factors that contribute to, I can say, regarding overfishing, overexploitation. So regional resources are really easy, but we are also like trying to like certify or eco-label commercially like fisheries. And currently we have 10 fisheries which are moving towards MSC certification. I would not go into the details of certification. So that is one thing we do with the fish that is there in the sea. And secondly, I would also like to mention the same applies for the farmed shrimp. I think most of you might be eating shrimp. So the shrimp from the farms also go through a process called AAC certification, which is the Stewardship Council certification for aquaculture. And then once you have, so that particular product also has a logo. And once that logo is there on the product, it says that it is sustainably farmed. And we also engage with the State Fisheries Department, with the National Fisheries Research Institutes, with the Technical Institute in like providing advice to making amendments in the national policy as well as the Marine Fisheries Regulation Act. So this is with regard to the sustainable fisheries that we are doing. So I would not like to go into nitty-gritties of all that we are doing. So this is broadly what we are doing with regard to sustainable fisheries. And next comes the threatened species and critical ecosystems. So the populations of threatened marine species are secure and critical ecosystems are effectively conserved. So here, our major work is on the top, what do you say, the tertiary animals in the ecosystem. So one of them would be the marine turtles. So the marine turtles do really contribute a huge way to the ecosystem services and also keeping a balance in the marine ecosystem and very important species with regard to the food web. So here what we do is we protect the beaches on which the marine turtles comes for nesting. So among the 5 species of marine turtles, we have a huge number nesting along the Orissa coast, and the species is olive ridley turtle. So basically what we do is we protect the nesting beach so that the animal comes to the nest, it lays its egg, and then after hatching, the hatchlings go back to the sea. And it is believed, it is not only a belief, it is also scientifically proven that the females that hatch out come to the same nesting beach after they reach an adulthood, maybe say like 25, sorry, maybe say to 30, like 50 years, which is really phenomenal. And then since the marine turtle nesting happens in Orissa on a large scale, like around 50 to 1 lakh sea turtles come and nest on the nesting beach. So before nesting, there is a process called congregation or mating, which happens offshore in the sea. So there also we do a sort of protection by way of encouraging the trawl operators to use a device, which is called the turtle excluder device. So if that device is fixed onto the net, it helps in the escapement of the turtles when they get caught in the net. So what normally happens is during a fishing operation, along with the fish, there is a tendency of these marine turtles also to enter into the net. And here you have a turtle excluder device, which is in the form of a barrier at the cordon where the fish or any species collects. And then when the marine turtle hits the barrier, it can escape through an outlet at the top. So this is what we do with regard to marine turtles. And there is a lot of community participation in this, along with a lot of volunteers, and we are being greatly helped by the forest department and also the fisheries department. So next, coming to bycatch. So just a definition of a bycatch. So normally when we do an operation in the sea and we are fishing for a particular variety, say shrimp. So along with the shrimp, there is also a possibility for other species to enter into the net, which is named as bycatch. So the actual or the targeted catch might be the shrimp, but the bycatch might be like different species. So here, looking at bycatch, the sharks, turtles, and cetaceans are one of the top predators, and they are like really top predators and play a very critical role in the ecosystem. So here, for reducing the bycatch of the sharks, turtles, and cetaceans, as I said, for the turtles, we have the turtle explorer device. So with regard to sharks, we have designed, and we are yet to do the offshore trials. We have designed a bycatch reduction device, which is also a device similar to TED and which is fixed to the net, which helps in reducing the bycatch of the marine, bycatch of sharks. And with regard to cetaceans, I think Abhishek will be like highlighting like what the cetacean work is about and also on the tide pool trails. But with regard to cetaceans, there is a community engagement to map the cetaceans in our coastal waters, and they are also very critical to the ecosystem. And this mapping or this activity is done as a community program along the fishers, and the fishers are educated on why this animal is important in the ecosystem. Okay, nextly coming to the critical marine areas, here we have just started the work. So it is basically to protect the critical marine areas, like you have areas where you have horseshoe crab, which is very unique to the, in certain places in the Indian coast. And I also said we have marine turtles, we have sharks. So all these areas anyway have to be protected to keep the species sustainable. So these are areas where we have just started our work, and they are called marine protected areas. So protecting these critical habitats is also critical to the ecosystem. Okay, and next coming to protecting the intertidal habitats. I think most of you who are listening here would have gone to a beach, whether it is sandy, muddy, or rocky, and you would have seen while the tide or while the wave recedes, you might have seen small pools on the beach, which are called the intertidal pools. So the intertidal means where it is an interface between the sea and the beach, and the intertidal pool has lots and lots of biodiversity, and Abhishek would be like throwing light on the intertidal habitat and also on the intertidal biodiversity. And next, coming to sustainable development, which is at the very nascent stages. So basically what we do is like incorporating the sustainability principles and practices into the development policies in the coastal, marine, and island ecosystems. And as everyone knows, we have two island ecosystems in India. One is the Lakshadweep Islands and then the Andaman Nicobar Islands. And both islands are critically important because they are like coral reef. And as I saw a lot of answers in the Q&A session, that coral reefs are really a heaven of biodiversity, and it has a lot of animals that play a very critical role in the ecosystem. So protecting these coral reefs are very critical to the marine ecosystem. And we in fact work with the forest department and the fisheries department in giving recommendations on how these ecosystems can be sustainably managed. And also with regard to marine tourism, we have developed guidelines on dolphin watch and dive tourism, which mostly happens along the Goa coast. And that is being like implemented along with the tourism department and also the fisheries department. And last, coming to the work on marine debris and plastic pollution, I think most of you might have heard about plastic pollution, which is very, which is very critical. And now in the COVID days, most of it is like plastics, and the work that we had started earlier by bringing out innovative solutions to address the issue of marine debris and plastic pollution. We faced a little bit of a challenge during these COVID days. Otherwise, we were on track with saying that the single-use plastic has to be banned, which is really, really bad to the ecosystem and also to the environment. And right now, trying to like, create awareness within the public, saying that the single-use plastics has to be banned, and also trying to upcycle and recycle the plastics that is found in the sea. So in the sea, you have two types of plastics. So they are like plastics which are dumped into the sea, and also like ghost nets. So ghost nets are the ones where when the fishermen go for fishing, so while fishing, like you have accidents on the roads, here also you have accidents. Sometimes the nets might get torn off, or the nets might get just detached from the from the boat. So these are basically ghost gear which remains in the sea and has all the ability to capture different marine species in the net. And once it is entangled in the net, it is very difficult for the animal to escape, and it normally dies. So here what we are trying to do is to upscale the ghost gear by collecting data and finding out where are these critical habitats where you have a lot of ghost gear, and like collaborating with companies to upscale and recycle it into sunglasses, surfboards. Yeah. So I think with this, I come to the end of my presentation. Though this is broadly on what we do with the marine program. And last but not the least, I would also like to congratulate the team for making this really happen, because there has been behind the scenes so many people working on it. And thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Vinod. That was very interesting. I'm sure we have some future volunteers and supporters in this group of enthusiasts. I would now like to invite Dr. Sejalgora, WWF India's program director, to say a few words to us on the role of education in marine and coastal ecosystem conservation.
Thank you. Can we have this slide off and the participants on? Yeah, thank you. Because I'm not going to share a presentation, I'm just going to talk. I think many of us have webinar overkill and presentation overkill. So I'm just going to be really brief. And, rather than give a relatively boring talk, I should say, on the role of education in marine conservation, because everyone's going to talk about that. I'm going to really more share my personal journey and give an anecdote of how, I was influenced as I went on my life journey by marine conservation issues. So to start with, we're talking about the role of education. Now, it's critical in any sector. It's not necessarily unique to the marine sector. We know that in conservation, education plays a critical role. Radhika has already outlined some of the new initiatives that we are doing in terms of adapting to the COVID situation, because education remains important no matter what the external situation is. But we've also found that in the marine sector, it is probably much more needed because for whatever reason, it's still lesser understood and appreciated than the terrestrial sector. And we find this, over and over again when we talk to people and we talk to children about marine issues. So Coralie, Vinod, all of them mentioned that, despite the fact that India has such a large coastline, such a long coastline, 8,000 kilometers, it has island ecosystems, it has a huge variety of marine habitats. Despite this, the knowledge about this is still fairly limited. We also mentioned the fact that 15% of India's people live in coastal districts. We're the second largest fish producer in the world. The fisheries sector contributes 5% of our GDP. Today is Fisheries Day. All of these things are all, there in our consciousness about the marine and coastal sector. But despite that, when you talk, say about tigers, most children will be able to tell you something about tigers. They'll tell you about, the life history, the feeding habits, how many tigers there are left, and they'll come up with a plethora of information. Tigers are the apex predator in the terrestrial system, and most children will know quite a lot about tigers. You ask them about sharks, which is also the apex predator in a marine system, and you'll find blankness. You'll find that people don't really know a lot about sharks, or you will find negative imagery. And you'll find people expressing fear or expressing negative sentiments towards sharks. Okay, this is despite the fact that Indian waters hold more than 150 species of sharks. We are the second largest shark capturing nation in the world. And many of these shark species are threatened with extinction. But why is it that people are so less aware about this marine species, which is equally important, than they are about terrestrial species like tigers or elephants? So, I think about this, and while I was preparing for this talk also, I was asking myself, what could be the reason for this? Why is it that, the marine sector is less understood, less appreciated? It could partly be because of the education gap. And I think that it could be because marine systems are not given enough attention in the curriculum, even in the environmental curriculum. And I started searching, and I also thought of my own experiences, and I recognized that the focus is very much on forests, on terrestrial systems, and not enough on marine systems, which is why I'm absolutely delighted that this initiative on marine matters is being launched, because it is probably one way to redress this gap that exists in terms of education and imparting knowledge about marine systems. So let me go to my own journey and how this led me to where I am today. I just wanted to illustrate how important education, outreach, and exposure is to forming children's ideas and even the future choices about careers. So I grew up in Mumbai, next to a rocky shore, which, as those of you who live near the coastline or in Mumbai know, that they were, prevalent all over. Unfortunately, the rocky shore that I grew up against has now been bulldozed and is buried under concrete because the coastal road of Mumbai is going to come up on that shore, which also goes back to show, again, how little these ecosystems are appreciated, because, it doesn't sort of require a lot to reclaim these, to cover these in concrete. to fill these up with groins. I mean, these are things that are done to our marine ecosystems and habitats on a regular basis, and we are losing them probably at a faster rate than we realize. So anyway, to go back to this rocky shore, when I was a child, this was our playground. So our playground was this pool of rocks that the tide left behind, and we spent our childhood exploring these little rock pools, and were fascinated. We were fascinated by the variety of life that was left behind in these rock pools. There were anemones and tiny little fish. There were hermit crabs. There were barnacles. In those days, we didn't quite know exactly what species or what these were, but we just knew that this was a fascinating world that was different from the world outside that we were privileged to explore. So that's how my interest really, maybe not just in marine issues, but in conservation as a whole, must have started by exploring those little rock pools. I got a little older and I discovered the aquarium in Mumbai. And I used to go there on my own. I spent so many happy hours. I remember just gazing in complete fascination at these sea creatures that had been brought into the aquarium. And, now I know that zoos and aquariums, especially badly run zoos and aquariums, are not considered to be great centers of learning for children. But in those days, we had no access to digital reality. We had no access to, virtual learning. We had, basically nothing. This was all we had. We had to go and explore on our own. So we went off and learned from the aquarium or from walking on tide pools. Although, of course, I still believe that, the best way for children to learn is to have a real immersion in the ecosystem. And for those, living near a coastline, it's so much easier. It's so easy to access a coastline than it is to even access a forest. It's much harder to get into a forest. It's so easy to just go to a coastline. Although, of course, we'll have to wait till COVID is over when we can do this. But, beaches, tide pools, even reclaimed coastal areas, a variety of, very, very fascinating creatures. And Abhishek will probably tell you about this. But these are living labs. These are living labs which are not very far from where people on the coast live. And really the encouragement to go and explore these areas should be sort of, really, really pushed. So, and if you were a little more adventurous, so as I grew a little older, I got a little more adventurous and invested in a simple mask and snorkel. And that's all you need. You don't need fancy equipment or diving gear. Of course, it'll be nice if you have that, but just a simple mask and snorkel and a whole new world comes alive for you. It doesn't, again, take a lot. I used to go snorkeling, at every chance I got, even in the center of Bombay, off Chowpatty Beach, which, is, if you look at it now, it's just a muddy expanse of water, and you'd wonder, what on earth would you find here? But interestingly enough, we found lots of marine life. Of course, not the Andamans, it's not this amazing coral reef, but we found lots of interesting marine life. So again, it just takes a little bit of a sense of adventure and a little bit of investment and a little bit of push and guidance to be able to explore a whole new world. Now, I guess I would have loved to say that as a result of all this, I became a top-notch marine biologist. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Alas and alack, I went off to focus on mountains and mountain ecosystems as a career rather than marine ecosystems, mainly because I could not bring myself to eat fish. So I probably still regret to this day that I didn't go in for marine biology. But the point of the fact is that my interest in conservation and any ultimate impact I might have had on conservation is primarily because of my early exposure to marine and coastal ecosystems. Now, it would have made an even bigger impact, I think, if I had had a structured educational experience and mentoring, which is, I think, what is lacking. And this is where I would, really encourage, sort of the system to go in for experiential learning and mentoring, because that makes all the difference. You can learn all you want in a classroom. But as I said, I think I would have turned a different face to my career if I had had the right mentoring, apart from just learning on my own. So therefore, I just want to mention that, my journey started with my exposure to marine systems. I'm delighted that this is happening. I'm thrilled that Abhishek is going to follow this with sharing with you some of the wonders of marine life close to you. And I'm pretty sure that, after this is over and as you go through this Marine Matters initiative, you will never look back. And many of you like me will be hooked for life to marine and coastal ecosystems, and that is my fervent hope. So thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of this program. Over.
Thank you, Sejal. That was indeed very insightful. Education and outreach is certainly invaluable to bring about positive change and awareness towards marine and coastal ecosystems. And in a way, your personal journey is certainly a testimony to this. And I think everyone in WWF-India can thank Marine Systems because now you're the programs director and you initially got inspiration from Marine Systems. Moving on, I feel like this is the natural progression. Next up is Mr. Abhishek Jamlabad, who is a former colleague of the Marine Program at WWF India, and he is also a co-founder of Marine Life of Mumbai. Over to you, Abhishek.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting for the remote control for the screen.
So Abhishek, you can go ahead and start talking and I can handle the back end of it.
Should I share my screen? That'll be easier.
If you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, is this visible?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the introduction, Coralie, and for the opportunity, WWF India. Sejal spoke very beautifully about her personal journey with the intertidal space, and what I'm going to talk about is basically going to end up being an extension of that. So the lack of awareness that Sejal spoke about, especially about accessible intertidal spaces, is something that extended to me as well. I've been working as a marine biologist for the past 6 years now, but my work has mainly involved places like this, what you see on the screen, the open sea, where I used to go out on fishing boats a lot to do my work on cetaceans, whales and dolphins. And I've often been a part of dive surveys as well, where we survey coral reefs. But when I was back on land, I was like this, which is what most marine biologists who work in the field feel like on land. It feels like a place where you don't belong, where there's nothing much to do except desk work. And I come from Bombay, which is a place where this feeling is something that everyone has. To me, Mumbai was, for a very long time, the seashores in Mumbai represented things like this, just people having fun, people relaxing, a little bit of shore fishing, and a lot of construction happening on the seashore, like these high-rise buildings that you see here. What I did not know for many years was that right at the foot of this urban environment of Mumbai, there is an entire marine ecosystem like this. What you see in the picture is a sea sponge. There are also creatures like these button polyps, which are found right at the foot of the city. These are a kind of coral, and up close they look like this. There are also hard corals like this, which people generally expect in places like the Andamans or Lakshadweep. And there are entire ecosystems of this kind that reveal themselves when the tide goes out, when it's low tide. So this space between the two tides, between the high tide mark and the low tide mark, is called the Intertidal Zone. Intertidal meaning between the tides. And this is a very little known habitat that gets exposed even in a very urban place like Mumbai. As you can see, it's very biodiverse. And I got to know of all this only after I co-founded the Marine Life of Mumbai initiative with a few friends of mine who also happen to be listening to this call. Intertidal biodiversity documentation in India has been a very slow process, and it's been stalled a lot. And there are a variety of reasons for this. Firstly, these are considered lesser known creatures and are not so extensively studied even by marine biologists. As a result of the lack of study, they cannot be identified easily. And whatever resources are there for identification are ambiguous and debated among scientists. So that really hinders our documentation of them. Thirdly, the intertidal habitat is vast. It sounds like it's just a narrow strip of beach that opens up at low tide, but it's actually in some places the water even goes out kilometers. So it's a huge area and it's very hard to explore for just a few people. The observation time is very limited. We have to wait for really good low tides to be able to access this space. And even then we get like a couple of hours to observe and then we have to be back. And lastly, there has always been a dearth of serious enthusiasts and general public participation, which is not there in an activity for birding, for example, which is very popular. So under the Marine Life of Mumbai initiative, we started exploring the seashores on our own in Mumbai. We started this in March of 2017. And we started inviting people, members of the public, to come and join us for these walks. At this time, we did not know much about the biodiversity either. So this was not so much like a guided trail. It was more like getting people to come and explore with us. And we were learning as we went with these people. And people gradually started observing. We also started observing creatures and documenting them with simple photographs. Some people just use their phones. And we started seeing initially a few creatures that we were familiar with, and then some more that we were not so familiar with. And this ultimately added up to a lot of creatures that we found were not there in documentation. They were not there in scientific papers or checklists, and they were not there in any of the literature. And that's when we realized that we need to make this a little more systematic. And we use this platform called iNaturalist. It's a website called inaturalist.org, where we started a project for Marine Life of Mumbai. And we asked people to just upload their photos from whatever they see to this website. And it forms a sort of a database where other scientists from all over the world help you identify, not just scientists, even enthusiasts who are well versed with these things. And right now we stand at over 3,000 observations, as you can see, and over 425 species. Some are as yet unidentified, so this is not the total number. And these are just from the urban spaces of Mumbai, just the urban seashores. And these are the seashores across Mumbai that we've documented over the past few years under the Marine Life of Mumbai initiative, which covers most of the seashores that are accessible within the city. Among the species that we found, and there are a lot of these, I could go into a rabbit hole showing you all the species, but I won't do all of that on this presentation. I'll just highlight a few, such as these so-called lost species. Lost species are basically species that had been discovered in Mumbai long ago, such as the top two sea slugs here. These were described in 1946 by a British biologist at the time, and they were never recorded in Mumbai after that. And these are things we started uncovering as we did these walks with our community. And this started adding up to some really interesting finds. These five are sea slugs, which were considered lost species, and this one is a cowrie snail. There are also protected species within Mumbai's habitats. Who would have thought that Mumbai's seashores are home to protected species? These are 4 of the many hard coral species that we have here. Hard corals are under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act, which means they are basically as protected as tigers are. And they are interestingly distributed along the entire western seaboard of Mumbai. Almost all the seashores across western Mumbai have hard corals of some kind or the other. And these are little known, and a lot of the work that happens, the development work that happens on these seashores completely ignore the presence of protected species like these. This is a video that I took just a couple of days ago. These are the eggs of cuttlefish. And you can actually see the cuttlefish babies in those eggs. So I put in this clip to highlight the fact that it's not just rare species and protected species on the seashore. There are also species that live further out in the ocean, such as these cuttlefish, which will then go to live in the deep sea. They don't inhabit the intertidal, but they use the intertidal for breeding. It's an important breeding ground, even for non-intertidal species. And many of these are also an important fishery resource and also figure in the marine food webs very prominently. So what did we do with all this data that we started amassing under this project? It is essentially open-ended and it's open access data, anyone can use it. We and some of our friends started using this as a simple reference guide, because as we started uploading and as our participants started uploading, it sort of built up into a sort of catalog which is sorted by location and even by season. So if you're at a particular seashore in Mumbai at a particular time, you can actually filter those out and get a sort of a catalog to know what you can expect to see. They have also been used as resources for third-party outreach and education, where people have accessed some of the photos from the project, which are licensed as Creative Commons by the people who upload them. And students have also used these for their master's research dissertations, which they do on intertidal ecology. And lastly, but very significantly, and this is something Sejal spoke about as well, this data has been used to plug biodiversity data gaps in decision making. What I mean is the coastal road, for example, which Sejal spoke about. The environment impact assessments that happen for projects like these often don't have enough access to data, and so they end up ignoring a lot of the biodiversity in these places. And having a community-driven open access database of this kind helps to challenge that. So the data from the MLOM project was successfully used in a high court case, which actually brought a temporary stay on the coastal road, for example. The Marine Life of Mumbai project had a diverse team, which members of the team then moved to other places. I myself moved to Goa to work with WWF for a couple of years. And that led to these kind of projects that branched off from this idea. And these are just 4. There are now many projects on intertidal biodiversity on the iNaturalist platform from different parts of India. So the documentation of the intertidal space through communities has been gradually increasing. We also use social media, of course, because not everyone is familiar with exploring seashores. So we need to get a lot more, we need to reach out to people who are not so familiar with it as well. So we started social media handles where we started sharing information about the species that we were finding. And some of the members of our team who are well versed with social media also came up with engaging content, engaging interactive content on social media, which really went a long way towards spreading the word and feeding directly into the citizen science documentation movement. We also have a website where we put up shore walk guidelines to help people explore on their own. And some of the artists in our team, free of cost, made these illustrated seashore guides for a few shores in Mumbai, which you can download from the website as PDFs if you're interested. So this is how the movement grew steadily, and it's still growing. We're a growing community of people, more and more people documenting. And I hope that those of you who live in coastal areas also do this. You can feel free to get in touch with us on any help that you may need. And I'll end with that. There were a lot of visuals, a lot of photos that I could have shown you, but due to the time constraint, I haven't. But you can visit any of our social media handles to see those kind of catalogs or the iNaturalist project. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhishek, for those wonderful pictures and also for explaining to us how you've been systematically documenting biodiversity. I hope your presentation inspires our audience to spend some more time exploring the intertidal zone. Moving on, we will now screen for you the Plastics Ocean documentary. So hold on to your seats and we'll be back shortly. But before we proceed, I would like to ask you one fun question. What is a plasticarian? Is it A, someone who eats plastic, B, someone who uses plastic, C, someone who loves plastic, or D, someone who avoids using plastic? Hold on to your thoughts as we screen the Ocean Plastics documentary.
Plastic is wonderful because it's durable, and plastic is terrible because it is durable. Almost every piece of plastic ever made is still on the planet in some form or another. Plastic production globally this year is expected to be more than 300 million tonnes.
Half of which we'll use just once and then throw away. By 2050, when the population explodes to almost 10 billion people, it's expected that plastic production will triple. The problem with that is that today only a fraction of the plastic that we produce is recycled. The rest ends up in our environment. It's coating our land and our oceans like a disease.
Garbage thrown away in the United States can make its way to Antarctica. Plastic in our coastal waters is pulled into the centre of massive wind-driven, churning circular gyres. There are many other ocean currents also diverting the trash all around the surface of the ocean. In reality, it's just one ocean with no boundaries. Lord Howe Island is a World Heritage Site and home to migratory seabirds like the shearwater.
Seabirds are incredibly helpful because they act like an army of scientists. They travel thousands of miles across the ocean. They pick up plastic off the surface of the ocean. They bring it back to their rookeries where they feed it to their chicks. And that provides an incredible amount of scientific data in terms of where the plastic comes from, its distribution, and how it breaks up on the ocean surface. Dr. Jennifer Lavers, she'd devoted her life to studying the plight of seabirds. Shearwaters are incredible birds. They migrate thousands of miles, stopping only here to breed.
Yeah, the stomach is very, very full, and if we look here, there's some very dark pieces, some very light white pieces, and if you see, as I push on this, it's absolutely rigid, completely full of plastic all the way up.
Oh, look at that.
Absolutely no doubt that this bird died as a result of that plastic. That is literally a gut full of plastic. It's quite alarming, isn't it?
Oh, that's awful.
Range of plastic types and colours. We've got everything from the blues and the reds
His
to the
stomach's just filled with it. Big pieces too.
big
Like
sharp
heavy.
pieces.
Oh wow, look at the size of that big black piece.
That is an enormous piece of plastic.
Unbelievable. Look at the size of that. Jen, I counted 234 pieces of plastic out of that one bird. Is that a record?
Not even close, unfortunately. So for the species, the record is 276 pieces of plastic inside of one 90-day-old chick. And that plastic, when we weighed it out, accounted for 15% of that bird's body mass. So that's a pretty scary statistic. If we translate that into human terms, it gets even worse. That would be equivalent to you and I having somewhere around 6 or 8 kilos of plastic inside of your stomach. It's equivalent to about 12 pizzas worth of food inside of your stomach. It's quite a bit of plastic for just one little bird. The parents were trying to do the right thing. There's a lot of squid beaks in here, and this purple colour is evidence of the squid ink. It's just a shame that every now and then they got it wrong, and got it wrong in a bad way. Really is quite an overwhelming thing. I do have some pretty rough days, have to go home and really wrap my mind around where do we go from here.
As a Pacific Islander, I know that the ocean is in deep trouble. The very authoritative prediction shows that by the year 2050, there'll be as much plastic as there is fish in the ocean by weight. Every country uses plastic. We need to start rationalizing that. We need to think about reuse of plastic, single-use plastic. It's got to be on its way out. And you know, plastic shopping bags are a good example of that. Your family does not need to use them. Take a cloth bag with you when you go shopping and put your shopping in there. There's an equivalent of a large garbage truck every minute of every day backing up to the ocean and just dumping plastic into it. We really have to look at ourselves and say, do we deserve this beautiful ocean that was given to us?
So we got to see many people answering the question that Coralie asked. So for the ones who are not still sure, the answer is someone who avoids using plastic is known as plasticarian. The movie Plastic Ocean really showed us how grave the situation can be created by the plastic pollution. No wonder by 2050, it is predicted that plastic will outweigh fish in the ocean pound for pound. The need of the hour is awareness, which could be spread through education. Therefore, I would request Dr. V.B. Mathur, Chairman of National Biodiversity Authority, to share his thought about this with us. To you, Dr. Mathur.
A very good morning. Can you see and hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we can see you and hear you.
So on behalf of the National Biodiversity Authority, and on own behalf, I would like to compliment all of you on the World Fisheries Day today. There can be no better way to celebrate it in the manner in which WWF is doing. And I would compliment the WWF and its very, very, what should I say, intense staff, which has been involved in putting up this program together. Being a Saturday, being a holiday, I understand the difficulties. And that was the reason that I thought that if WWF can do like that, I would definitely chip in to do my bit. As one would do, I also prepared my presentation. It's there with the organizers. But this morning when I heard Dr. Sejal speaking about a personal story, and when I saw this wonderful video, I thought that my slides will not be able to do justice to what we have already seen and heard. So see, here I go. Unlike Sejal, who started a life in a coastal city in Mumbai, my upbringing are from the desert states of Rajasthan. I was born there, I worked there in the deserts for 25 years. And then I came to the mountain state of Uttarakhand in the city of Dehradun, and I lived my 35 years in Dehradun working for the Wildlife Institute of India. And that's what I thought, that from desert to mountains, my journey will end. But destiny had something else. After living for 35 years, I had to come to Chennai, where the National Biodiversity Authority is located. So my connect now with today's marine matter is that I live in coastal and marine city of Chennai. And I should share a very interesting story of that. Obviously, when I came, I had to look for house. So every day we will search and look and find out that which houses to see. And I was traveling the length and breadth of the city or the coastal city of Chennai. And I was trying to ask people that what is it about and what kind of environment and surrounds were there. And very quickly I understood that there were some major issues relating to water. So the moment I asked someone about the house that I was looking for, he would say that there is no water here or in this colony, and every drop of water will have to be purchased. So which was quite an experience for me coming from the mountain state of Uttarakhand, where all the rivers originate, that somebody would buy water like this. And then not only this, when I looked at other houses, people said that there is no water. There is a complete drought-like situation. So I wondered that in the same city, half of Chennai is without water and half of Chennai is flooded with water. And that is where I need to take my call, that where I would like to live. So the point I'm making is that there is a very, very strong connect between oceans, seas, and coastal ecosystems. For living a healthy and resilient life and caring for our marine environment, it is very important that we keep our oceans and seas and coastal marine ecosystems together. I would also like to share that many of you would recall, it was just 2 years back in 2018 that we celebrated the World Environment Day. And that World Environment Day was something very important. The theme was plastics. How to get rid of plastics, how to control our use of plastics over there. And for the first time, this issue of marine plastic litter was also highlighted. And it was stressed in the presentations that whatever we throw or use from rest of the country ultimately flows into our seas, into our oceans, into our coastal and marine ecosystems. And therefore, control of marine pollution is very, very important. Now, one more thing interestingly happened. The National Geographic, I'm sure many of you or all of you who are listening understand and know what National Geographic does apart from bringing out its magazine. So the National Geographic came forward and said that they want to work with India, they want to work with Wildlife Institute of India, and we want to run a program, and we want to run a project which is very interestingly titled From Source to Sea. And the idea is that we trace the journey, we track the journey of a marine plastic, say a water bottle, from a place where the Ganga originates in Gomukh in Uttarakhand, and we track and trace the journey till it goes into the sea. So that was a very, very interesting project, which we readily agreed. And top scientists from US, from National Geographic Society, from Zoological Society London, and WII and others joined in, and we started working on that. And there were teams which said that, okay, we will have to do part of the journey on the rivers, on the water, on the land, trying to assess. The point I'm making it is this, that we wanted to get an idea, and this is already shown very nicely in the video that we saw, that how the marine litter, the marine plastic is affecting it, and how we saw our scientists dissecting the animal and showing that the amount of plastics or waste that gets into the body and which could be lethal. So we continued with that project, and our colleagues from Bangladesh also joined in, because part of the Ganga ultimately, before it goes into the sea, goes to Bangladesh. And we were able to quantify and assess using some very interesting tools we put a very radio tracer in a plastic bottle, which was giving signals. So we were able to monitor that how much time it takes, what transformation takes place, and so on. The point I'm highlighting by narrating the story is that our concern, our awareness, and our understanding of the importance of the oceans, of the seas, and of the coast is becoming greater. And we are also aware that these areas, the oceans, for example, are a very important source of biodiversity. And we are beginning to understand the interlinkages between the land and the sea and the vital role they play in regulating the climate systems of our Earth. So therefore, we need clean, we need safe, healthy, productive, and resilient oceans and seas in order to ensure that we get into sustainable development and we are able to have a sustainable ocean-based economy. I would also like to reiterate our commitments for conserving and sustainably using the oceans, the sea, and the marine resources for sustainable development, and specifically on preventing and significantly reducing the marine pollution and the marine litter, including marine plastic litter, the microplastics as we call them, as well as the nutrient pollution from land and sea-based sources which are there. I'm very happy to share that India is part of the group of nations which have agreed that we will work to reduce additional pollution by marine plastic litter to zero. Of course, the timeline is 2050. And we also need to follow and adopt a comprehensive life cycle approach that includes reducing the discharge of mismanaged plastic litter by improved waste management, by providing and working out innovative solutions, and while recognizing the important role for plastics for society. It is not that we are against plastics. Plastics have a role to play in our economy, but what the danger from that is coming from the single-use plastic, which is what we need to work on. No discussion or no discourse on coastal and marine can take place without the talk of coral reefs. They are the most valuable ecosystems on Earth, which provide vital environmental services for human well-being, for food security, for livelihood, and for economic opportunities and coastal protection for at least 500 million people. Look at the figure, 500 million people are dependent on that. And therefore, I say that coral reefs play a major ecological role in the protection of marine species and other coastal ecosystems, such as mangroves and seagrass beds, which provide valuable ecosystems services. But what are we doing? Coral reefs and related ecosystems are particularly threatened. They are threatened by acidification, by ocean warming, by unsustainable human activities, including excessive exploitation of reef resources. The enormous destruction which is caused by unsustainable dredging, land reclamation, and inappropriate seabed mining, and particularly overfishing and the use of destructive fishing methods. So see, these are all the things which have been shown in the video that you saw, that these are some things which we need to care. And I take this opportunity of complimenting the WWF again for working out this program, very interestingly titled Marine Matters. And this is the beginning. And I'm very sure that in years to come, in days to come, we will be having a large number of such activities for the schools, for the teachers, for the school children. So the way ahead is very clear. We need to enhance and strengthen the coastal and marine conservation for all the reasons that I outlined and you are aware of. But we need to use a range of approaches. And the best part I found today when WWF approached me, that through the school curriculum, through the engagement of school children, and I would urge that the school projects that our students make in different classes, if they can be themed on marine areas, it would be doing wonders in creating the awareness, both amongst the teachers and the schools and the parents, and through the children to the larger part of our society. So definitely we need to build capacity. There are not many marine scientists or ecologists. The one we had in Sejal also moved out from coastal to marine. But yes, there is, if we are able to create good interest, we should be then able to have our young breed of young scientists, young biologists, young marine biologists, because there are as many as 9 states in the country which have the coastline, which are part of the coastline of about 8,000 square kilometers. And therefore, I think that today is a very important day. It will be a very important milestone. And I take full pleasure and privilege to launch the Marine Matters program. And I am very sure that my colleagues in WWF would be able to tell us that what kind of activities are being thought of, and what kind of projects, what kind of programs are there. And I wish from the National Biodiversity Authority, whatever role we can play, whatever help we can play in creating further awareness, in developing programs, in developing activities which resonate with the expectations of the children. I watched very carefully the quiz program, which was run in the program today, and the kind of wealth of information and the enthusiastic response I heard from the students gives me a great hope that we should be able to move ahead, and we should be able to make full use of this Marine Matters program. And in the end, I take privilege in announcing the launch of the Marine Matters program under the WWF. Over to you, and thank you very much for providing this opportunity. It has been a real privilege for me to talk to you, and I hope that our students and teachers and colleagues are inspired and they take up these activities in a meaningful way, not just something as a part of the school curriculum, which it could be, but more than that, this is what both the science and society needs. And I wish our children the very best. Thank you very much again for providing this opportunity. And over to you, Anisha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mathur, for launching our Marine Matters program and sharing your insightful thoughts with us. Marine Matters, which is a part of One Earth, One Home program, comprises of worksheets and video. The worksheet begins with a wonderful poem for the children, which has been penned by our dear colleague, Tabitha. You all can recite along with me now. You've learned about the forest, you've learned about the trees, you've learned about the flowers and the buzzing bees. Now let's learn about our oceans and seas, about the tiny little fishes and grass-eating manatees. This video will show you the beach and the bay, the mangroves and the saltwater crocodile prey. One Earth, One Home really is the best way to spend your time exploring the oceans today. Let's keep our coast cleaner together for a happier and healthier planet forever. Now, are you ready to explore the program? So suit up and let's dive into the ocean with Mr. Ranjan Matthew Varghese, who is the State Director of our Kerala State Office. Over to you, Mr. Ranjan.
Good morning, everyone. And on this Saturday morning, we have around more than 1,000 participants from across the country joining us for this national webinar. And it's a matter of great excitement for all of us. So right from morning 10 o'clock, you have been treated to a buffet of information, personal life experiences, documentary screening, all related to the marine and the coastal environment. And I hope all the educators and teachers who have joined us in this national webinar is really enjoying the program. So as Dr. Mathur has launched the Marine Matters, as you have all heard, Marine Matters is part of the One Earth, One Home movement of WWF India. And Ms. Radhika Suri, in her opening remarks, has detailed on how WWF India during this COVID pandemic time has come out with this digital program of One Earth, One Home, and how it is being rolled out as a pan-India program and how it is transforming the students as well as their homes into more green homes. So that is successfully being rolled out. And now we have launched the Marine Matters. As you all heard from people from Mumbai, for people from Chennai or from Trivandrum, you have the luxury of going to the coast and seeing everything and experiencing it on your own, but not for everybody from the entire country. So as part of the One Earth, One Home program, we have developed this content for classes 1 to 5, as well as class 6 to 8. There is one common video which we have made, which tells you about the various coastal ecosystems like the mangroves, like the estuaries, like the lagoons, as well as the marine environment on the coral reefs, as well as the seagrass beds and all those kind of things, so that everybody across our country will get a visual experience to see everything and explore it. Let's not talk more about it. Let's see the video and enjoy it.
Oceans cover about 71% of the Earth's surface. India is surrounded by the Arabian Sea on the west coast, the Bay of Bengal on the east coast, and the Indian Ocean in the south. We have a coastline of 7,516 kilometers. Our waters are home to dolphins, whales, sharks, turtles, and millions of little fish. 15% of all Indians live in coastal areas and depend on the sea for work and food. Around us are several different marine ecosystems like lagoons, mangroves, coral reefs, seagrass beds, and intertidal habitats like seashores and rocky shores. Intertidal habitats are areas where the land meets the sea. These zones experience constant fluctuations in water levels. Seashores interspersed with rocks are known as rocky shores. These shores are populated by animals such as anemones, crabs, and sea stars. Seaweed, algae, and oysters can often be found attached to the rocks in these regions. Sand-covered beaches or sandy shores are another intertidal habitat. Marine animals are harder to find here, with most burrowing themselves into the ground to keep safe from the waves. Nevertheless, sandy shores are home to many species of crabs and clams. Coastal lagoons comprise shallow coastal water bodies separated from the ocean by a barrier and are usually found parallel to the shore. A number of lagoons are present on the east and west coasts of India, including Chilika in Orissa, Pulicat on the border of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, and Ashtamudi and Vembanad in Kerala. Coastal lagoons are very valuable for fisheries and aquaculture. Mangrove forests are transitional regions that form a protective belt between land and sea and act as flood control systems. In India, these can be found in the deltas of rivers such as the Ganga, the Mahanadi, the Godavari, the Krishna, and the Kaveri, as well as on the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The Sundarbans are the largest contiguous mangrove forests in the world and are home to fiddler crabs, mudskippers, saltwater crocodiles, and sea snakes. The soil in these habitats contains less oxygen, so some of the plants that live here have adapted to these conditions and have small stick-like breathing roots called pneumatophores. Coral reefs are one of the most beautiful and colorful marine ecosystems. Corals are found in tropical shallow waters of the ocean. Although often mistaken for a rock or a plant, a coral is actually composed of tiny fragile animals called coral polyps, a cousin of the anemone and the jellyfish. Coral reefs are home to animals like turtles, sea snails, giant clams, and several species of colorful fish. In India, coral reefs are found in the Park Bay, Gulf of Mannar, Gulf of Kutch along the central west coast of India, Lakshadweep atolls, and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Seagrass meadows serve as feeding, breeding and nursery grounds for many vertebrates and invertebrates of commercial and ecological importance. They act as nurseries for several species of fish and invertebrates that move to coral reefs and other ecosystems as they mature. They are also important feeding grounds for herbivorous grazers like green turtles and dugongs. Marine habitats face multiple threats from climate change, plastic pollution, illegal trade, unsustainable fishing, and coastal development. So, what can you do to protect marine life? When near marine habitats, do not disturb the animals. This includes collecting shells, breaking corals, or picking up live animals. Do not litter the beach. Be aware of the marine habitats around you. Read books and learn as much as you can about these fascinating creatures. We have one earth and one home. Let's treat it right.
Wow, that was a real visual treat. Just like an experience that you must have taken a walk along the coastal stretch or dived deep into the sea and saw the turtles as well as the corals and the seagrass beds and all those kind of things. I hope you really enjoyed it. And I know seeing that much, you would expect a much longer video, but we are all now having very longer screen time, as well as considering the attention span of the children. We have packed the whole information into a video of just 4.5 minutes. Would encourage all the educators and as well as the teachers to take it forward with your children, share it with them so that they are also able to explore it. So what we usually say is, what you hear, you tend to forget. What you write, you will remember. What you do, you will learn. So along with this video, we have developed some worksheets for you. As I told you before, the worksheets are separate for classes 1 to 5, as well as classes 6 to 8. The worksheets are very, very simple. You have to be very careful when you watch the video so that you note everything. And the worksheets will help you to think, reflect, and remember, and write down or draw whatever most of the things that you saw in the videos, whether it was the crabs, whether it was a starfish or whatever it is. For classes 6 to 8, we have kept it a little more exploratory so that you can interact with your friends, your family, and then understand more about the hidden facts of the ocean, like why does the color of the ocean change? Why do we have expanding and shrinking beaches? Where do all the sand go? And all those kind of things. So the worksheets are just totally, it is around 12 sheets, but the actual worksheet where you work on is just 3 to 4 sheets. So please share it along with the students. So we would request all of you that now it is November 21. If you could keep a timeline of like December 20 and share it with your students as well as the all the other educators and then complete this by December 21. By December 20th, it would be really great. You can send us a feedback also. All this digital content is available on the MHRD Diksha portal, as well as the WWF-India Facebook page. And also we'll be sharing it on the WhatsApp groups. So you can further share it with those who are interested. As you saw, the content is available in English, but for the southern states, we have we have translated the content into Malayalam, Kannada, Tamil, and Telugu. So that is also available. So you can make use of that also. So in the limited time, I'm closing it with now. So the ball is now in your hands. So please do take up the videos as well as the worksheets and have a real dive into the depths of the ocean as well as explore and learn so that you take a step towards protecting the marine and the coastal environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ranjan. Education really holds an important part in understanding the nature, and it is required for its conservation. So we got to see a lot of colorful marine lives in the video. You can also watch the video again with the link given in the chat box. You can write in the chat box about how you felt after watching the video. You can also use the Q&A section to write about your thoughts about the video. Well, for now, it's a time to shake yourself. Do some finger exercises like this, and grab your phone because it is quiz time. I would request our quiz master, State Director of Hyderabad State Office, Ms. Farida Tampal, and State Head of Karnataka State Office, Ms. Bhalli, to step in and check your marine quotient. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Anisha, and I'm sure you're all ready to go. So you can use any other device, or you can use the same, your laptop or your mobile or tablet, whatever you're using, and open a new browser, type menti.com. As soon as you type menti.com, your code will come up. So let's wait for a moment. You can open up your browser, type menti.com, menti.com, and your code is 1710285. I will repeat, 1710285. And we will wait for a while. You will, while you all get into the menti.com webpage. Please go to www.menti.com and enter the code 1710285. You will get 15 seconds to answer. It is fastest finger first, and the top 10 scorers will be displayed on the leaderboard. So we'll wait for a while as all of you join. I hope all of you have been able to join the menti.com. We'll have your quiz come up in a while. Okay, I can see that large numbers of you have joined, and we have over 1,000 people today. So let's see. The code, I will repeat, is 1710285. Let's take the first question. Mangrove ecosystem is the nursery for marine species as well as for sequestry. You have 4 options: carbon dioxide, methane, CFC, all of these. I have 15 seconds, 3, 2, and 1. Let's see the answer come up on the screen. Those of you who have carbon dioxide as your choice, that is the right answer.
Mangroves have a big impact on climate. Although they are only found in tropical areas and cover an estimated 140,000 square kilometers, that is less than 3% the extent of the Amazon rainforest, mangroves are powerhouses when it comes to carbon storage. Studies indicate that mangroves can sequester 4 times more carbon than rainforests can. Most of this carbon is stored in the soil beneath mangrove trees.
And we will have the leaderboard come up soon. Let's see what's happening at the leaderboard. And we have Bidut Prakash Niyog, who was the fastest as well as the top scorer for this first question. So great And we have Archana also, who was the fastest. So let's see how it fares for the next few questions that we have. Let's move on to the second question. Warming of as little as dash causes coral bleaching. Your options are 2 degrees C, 1 degree C, 4 degrees C, and 0.5 degrees C. Let's see what happens next. And our answer is up there. And let me see how many of you got the right answer. Okay, 75 of you have got the right answer. It is 1 degree C that causes the coral bleaching.
The stunning colors in corals come from a marine algae called zooxanthellae, which live inside their tissues. When corals get stressed from things like heat or pollution, they react by expelling this algae, leaving a ghostly, transparent skeleton behind, which is known as coral bleaching.
Okay, so that was a fact trivia from Valli to you. And let us see what's happening on the leaderboard. We are seeing a change in position. We see somebody who is Wolf Mister coming up, and the fastest was Arham Jain. So good. Let's see what happens next. So we move on to the question number 3. The only tiger mangrove in the world are found here. Where is this? Whether it's Koringa in Andhra Pradesh, Sundarbans in West Bengal, Gulf of Mannar in Tamil Nadu, in the Several Flats in Mumbai. Very easy. I'm sure all of you are going to get it right now. Fantastic. 307 of you have said that it is a Sundarbans in West Bengal.
In fact, yes, Sundarbans are the largest contiguous mangrove forest in the world and are home to the tiger and other animals like the fiddler crabs, mudskippers, saltwater crocodile, water monitor lizards, and sea snakes.
Excellent. Thank you, Valli. That was an interesting trivia from you. And let's see the leaderboard now. It's constantly changing positions. We have a new person coming on top, and that is a person with just the name G. With a 2,708 score, and the fastest one is a whale shark. So let's see what happens in the next question. Question 4. In the movie Finding Nemo, the real names of the father clownfish and regal blue tang were Mr. Ray and Squirt, Marlin and Dory, Pearl and Peach, Tad and Bloat. I'm sure all of you have seen this film, Finding Nemo, a lovely film. Oh, so we have almost 149 of you who got the right answer. All of you watch a lot of animation films. That's Marlin and Dory. That's right.
Brilliant. Clownfish sales skyrocketed after the film's debut, and even today, some 1 million clownfish are captured from the wild each year to supply the aquarium industry. Similar is the fate of the regal blue tang. As many as 250,000 of them are taken from the wild each year for the aquarium trade.
Excellent. Let's see what's happening at the leaderboard. I'm sure there is a shift in position once again. And no, my guess was not correct. G maintains the leading position. No problem. We have a new person who was the fastest finger first, Crabster. Let's see what happens in the next penultimate question. Mass nesting of some species of sea turtle is called pods, mud puddling, aribada, or murmuration. I'm sure most of you know the answer. And that is 3, 2, 1. And let's see what's happening with the 161 said mud puddling. No, the answer is aribada, which means the arrival in Spanish, and Valli will give you a fact about this.
Thanks, Farida. Yes, such mass nesting events are called arribada, which in Spanish, it's a word meaning arrival. The olive-bridled turtle is considered the most abundant sea turtle in the world, with an estimated 800,000 nesting females annually.
And the leaderboard is completely gone topsy-turvy. Once again, we have a new person come up onto the top position, Priyansh Chen, with Crabster maintaining the fastest finger first position. So let's see the last question and what happens. It's all a very thrilling end. Craig Foster talks about his magical childhood forest in this recently released film. Which is the forest and the film that he talks about? Underwater Kelp Forest and My Octopus Teacher, Seagrass Meadows and Finding Nemo, Black Forest and Our Planet, Tropical Rainforest and The Green Inferno. And let's see the answer. That's interesting. 733 of you have watched this film. That means it's a wonderful film to watch. Do watch. It is Underwater Kelp Forest and My Octopus Teacher.
Kelp forests harbor a greater variety and diversity of plants and animals than almost any other ocean community. Many organisms, such as thick blades of the kelp, as the safe shelter for their young and predators to avoid predators or even rough storms.
Excellent. And we have Whale Shark as a winner today. A huge round of applause. Very well done, Whale Shark, with 5,381 points. So that's really well done. Over to you, Onisha.
Let's give a big round of virtual applause for the winner and the quiz master. So you can join our Facebook group for all the updates and for engaging in upcoming activities on environment education by WWF-India. The link is given in the chat box. You can just click on the link and you can join our group. So now we have reached the end of the session. You can share your thoughts and the queries in the Q&A section. We would like to have some closing remarks by the coordinator of Tamil Nadu State Office, Mr. S. Sarvanan. Over to you, Mr. Sarvanan.
Thank you, Anisha. I'm really happy that so much huge participation even the Saturday. And good morning to everyone. I hope you all enjoyed today's seminar. I would request all the participants and to take this forward to your school, and you can encourage your students to participate in all activities. It is in your hand. This program need to be success. So before we deep dive into the marine matters, I would like to thank all the state education department and the partners across the country who have supported One Earth, One Home program. And we also thank our principals and teachers, the coordinators who have joined today's programs. We look forward to your positive support and encouragement and the continuous support for all our programs. On behalf of WWF India education team as well as marine team, I thank our chief guest for today's seminar, Dr. V.B. Mathur, a dear friend of WWF India, for his valuable speech and encouragement. Thank you, sir. I'm sure all of you take a lot of food for thoughts through his address. I also thank Dr. Sejalgora for sharing her thoughts on how education can influence and ignite young minds and become a torchbearer for the future of this planet. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your thoughts. Also thank Mr. Abhishek, who has done a wonderful session on marine life of Mumbai. And thank you, Abhishek, for your nice presentation. I thank our colleagues from the marine team who has taken a time to create this Marine Matters program with us, Mr. Vinod, Dr. Corali, and Ms. Sneha for their valuable support creating the videos as well as the worksheets. My special mention to the Tabitha Kurvila, who has done an excellent job for creating these videos as well as poem and then worksheets. I also thank my colleagues from Education Division from Delhi office and the state office across the country who has made this great event, great success. And special mention to that Arunorai and as well as that Sulakna, who has done an excellent job for technical support as well as that outreach work. As I informed by my colleague, Mr. Ranjan, this marine matter program is available in that WWF India's education Facebook page, as well as that MHRD virtual Diksha portals. And also, finally, I like to congratulate and also thank my state colleagues from Southern State who has taken this lead and taken this great success here. Before I conclude, I would like to mention what Stephen Jay Gould, as an evolutionary biologist, said. We cannot win this battle to save species and environment without forging an emotional bond between ourselves and the nature as well. For we will not fight to save what we do not love. Thank you all. And thank you all. And we also want to inform you that 27th of this month, we are having state regional workshop from Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, as well as Andhra Pradesh. So you can also join the state workshop. And thank you very much.
With this, we would like to end our program. Thank you everyone for joining the program.